Welcome to Go Solo Live.
Don't you mean go solo live? Have you ever been asked why on earth would you travel alone? Go Solo Live not only answers that question, but celebrates life as a midlife solo traveler. This is a safe place for women to come together to reminisce about their travels, encourage others to travel, and to dig into the real lessons learned from these journeys. Now join Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel as she and her guests share stories of the solo travelers of midlife women.
Hello, sisters, and welcome to Go Solo Live. This is Jennifer Buchholz with Transform Via Travel. It's time to grab a cup of coffee and sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with Jen April as she shares her solo travel journeys. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Jennifer. So glad to be here.
I'm excited to hear what you have to share with our guests today. So why don't you start off with, you've been doing this solo travel gig for a little bit. Why don't you start off with your favorite solo travel experience?
Oh my goodness, there's so many there's so many that come to mind. But one of my favorite ones actually happened many, many years ago. I was 25 and backpacking around Europe, and I was in Prague. And it was Prague in August, which if you've ever been to Prague in August is a beautiful, beautiful time to be there because the weather's gorgeous and everybody's out in the streets, and it's just a storybook city. And there were people, they were outside and parading and for Mozart, for Amadeus. They were, every afternoon there would be like this little parade through the square, and they would be wearing these masks and these elaborate costumes and holding these things in the air. They were pumping up and down, and it was to, passing out, and there would be people, behind them and beside them passing out flyers to come to the concert that night. And it was just this wonderful, wonderful thing. I think I have this real affinity for street performers, so I just love the spectacle of this, and it was just gorgeous. Yeah.
So what took you to Prague? How did you get to that journey, and what took you there solo?
Well, I was in Europe solo. When I was 25, I had gotten married, and that quickly turned out not to be a good idea. And the thing that I wanted to do most in my life, because this is what I had real heart to heart with myself, what do you really want in life, Jennifer? Well, what you really want to do is go to Europe. Because that was really the only thing I'd ever wanted to do my entire life. So I was like, okay, then I've got to do that. So I sold pretty much everything I own, put a few things into my sister's attic, and bought a one-way ticket to Spain. Because in those days, they had these standby tickets for like $97, and you could get, and they were one-way standby. And it was the most amazing, some outfit that had extra tickets laying around, and you could call and they would tell you, this was days before the internet, they would call you, you could call them up and they would tell you like what seats there were available, like what your chances of getting on the flight were, so it'd be like, oh, we only have 3 seats to this, here, so you could kind of gauge when you want to go to the airport what your best chances were.
Awesome.
So then I was batting around Europe, and I ended up working on this yacht in off the coast of Spain, and it was this charter boat, or it was a charter yacht. So we had these guys coming on who were at that time in the fashion business, and they were really Italian. They lived in New York, and it was like this whole crazy scene. And so I was working on this boat for like 10 days as a stewardess. I'm making the beds, I'm washing the towels, I'm helping the cook. I'm like doing everything, and it was not glamorous. It sounds glamorous, not glamorous. And anyway, at the end of my 10-day charter, it was pretty clear that this was not the sort of life that was cut out for. I was made for. And I happily took my money, and I decided, okay, I worked really hard. What am I going to do next? And I'm thinking, well, I think I need a little vacation. And it's August, and what's cheap? Well, Prague. And I've never been there. So I got on a train and went to Prague.
Okay, so this is awesome. Let's take a second and backtrack. And for those in the younger generation listening to this conversation, travel existed before the internet.
Yes, it did.
And in some ways, it was even better.
It was so much more serendipitous.
Right? It was serendipitous. I love that you are associating those two things together. I will say that you could eat with real utensils on an airline. And I mean, there was real travel. Travel was some version of a luxury. So let's just put it into perspective. You were 25 approximately how many years ago?
Oh, approximately a little more than 20 years ago.
Okay. And so what's fascinating about that is in just really the past 2 decades, as things continue to evolve and change, how that particular industry has changed so dramatically. And even before that, when I did some studies around airline deregulation and things like that. And I don't remember the name of the film, but there was a wonderful documentary showing like the golden age of travel and the stewardesses who were able to lead these amazing lives of luxury
Right.
when they were traveling. And now you look at them and they're senior citizens, and they would not have done that any other way than what they did. It's fascinating. I'll try and actually look up the name of that movie so it can go into the show notes. But so you're 25 years old, you're flying standby, which is great because then it's an affordable way to do it. And you want to get to Europe. So there's this cultural thing, of course, with gap year, and Europeans and Canadians, and they do it. But you're past college, you'd been married, and now it's time for you to, spread your wings.
Have a gap year.
Take a gap year, right? Spread your wings and fly. What was the reaction when you were telling those that you cared about that this was going to happen for you?
Well, you can imagine that didn't go over in the best way. It wasn't like, well, of course that's what you should do. No one said.
No?
But at the same time, they weren't really attempting to, to dissuade me. I think at that point, my father had he just knew that, I'm just a free spirit and I'm going to do whatever because I've kind of never been able to be constrained. And I grew up, let me just tell you quickly, I grew up in a small town in rural South Carolina with a blinking traffic light. My entire life has been about escaping that at this time in my life, right? So I left college when I graduated from college and I moved to New Orleans. So I have been living in New Orleans, supporting myself for 3-4 years at this point. So it's not like I was a teenager,
Absolutely.
And I wasn't asking him for money, and he didn't really have any control. I'm 25.
I was going to say, and you weren't asking him for permission either.
No, I was never asking for permission. I'm not one for asking for permission.
Again, this isn't the biggest surprise I'm hearing right now. That's great. Okay, so you're leading this kind of lifestyle now in Europe. What were you feeling? Like, what was that sense for you were there any of those holy crap moments that I'm actually doing this alone?
Oh my gosh, all the time. I will say I was actually quite lonely a lot of times. I'm in foreign lands where I don't speak the language. When I stayed in hostels, especially during the summertime, it was like a lot of teenagers. Because it was college students, right? I'm not their age anymore. So there was that. But the first couple of months I was there, because I actually did this twice in 1 year, because I came back and then I went back. So wow. I was there in the winter, and then I was later there in the summer. And so there was, so I spent about 3 months traveling around Spain and Portugal by myself. And, I don't speak Spanish or Portuguese.
So how did you communicate?
I feel it's really imperative to teach yourself a few basic vocabulary words and try to string them together in a sentence. Hello, of course, thank you. How to order, a coffee or a glass of wine. Where's the bathroom? Some really basic things that even though you don't necessarily understand the answer, it's nice to make the effort, because especially when you ask for directions, like you can ask for directions all day long and not understand one word that comes back at you. And so that was but you can do a lot with pantomime, a lot of charades. As long as you're pleasant about it, people will go out of their way to help you.
That's great. So you had a strong base for doing solo travel, when you were young, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean as you have come into middle age? How is solo travel different now that you're in this age bracket?
So I haven't done nearly as much of it. I went to Ecuador 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now. And you were talking about the airlines earlier. And actually, it was on this South American airline that I don't remember the name of, but they had real silverware. They actually served us real food. It was like this most amazing experience because I had never experienced that in my lifetime. And the stewardesses are all beautiful and they're elegant, uniforms, and they served us real food and they served us with real utensils and they poured us all wine. And I was like, this is the stuff I've heard about, but I've never experienced it. But when I got to Ecuador, it was you're going out, you're exploring, and I had forgotten what it was like to really be on your own in a foreign country though, because I'd been a while. And that whole language barrier thing, my Spanish just has not improved a whole lot.
Absolutely.
Sad to say. And I had forgotten words that I had known at one time. But it was good. It's always a really great experience. I think it gives you that opportunity to step outside of your day to day.
Yes.
And reflect on what, who you are and kind of reconnect with yourself and what you really want out of life. And, that sitting in the restaurant by yourself and you're with your book or whatever. And it's just it allows a lot of time for introspection.
Yep. That makes complete sense. And I love how you said about reconnecting with yourself. That's one of the things that I spend some time talking to people about, is that through our daily routines, through our various roles in our work, we can often lose our sense of self, or certainly it can become diminished in some ways. And when you're traveling and the only person you have to think about or worry about is yourself, it really allows you to stop and say, what do I want? And it's all about me. And many people think that's selfish. How do you feel when I say that? Is it selfish?
I can see why people say that, but on the other hand, I think people spend so much time giving themselves over to other people that it's really, really, it's good for you. It's good for the spirit to step away and go, okay, what do I want? Whether it's an afternoon or, 6 months. I mean, whatever that works for you in your life, but I think it's healthy.
I love it. I love it. So as you continue to, do what you do, what's coming next in terms of travel for you? And how do you pick your travel adventures?
Oh, well, there's so many places to go, right? I guess how to pick, it always comes down to it's your time and money. If you don't have a lot of time, then you're not going to go very far. At least I'm not. I'm not going to go to Thailand on a week. I mean, I feel like you need more time.
Right.
It's just the getting there part of it is involved. So I would say that, probably that timing factor matters a lot. Do you have, because even just going away, I know it's technically not solo travel, but even just going away for the afternoon to the coffee shop by yourself, to someplace you've never been before,
Absolutely.
It's like that little mini break, if that's all you can do.
Absolutely. So I actually really encourage the people to understand that you don't have to go halfway around the world to be doing a solo travel and to be taking time for it just to be about yourself. It really just, it's a more a matter of mindset than it is about your destination.
Right. Because you could decide you're going to take yourself to the museum to go see an art exhibit that you want to go see. Nobody else wants to go see, or they don't have the schedule right now. And you're just like, no, I'm doing that and I'm doing it right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what has been the hardest part about solo travel for you?
Well, I guess there have definitely been times that, you're just tired and you wish there was someone with you, just schlepping your bags around and, being lost. Oh my gosh, I've been lost so many times in my life, just being really lost and not knowing where you're going. And sometimes that's just, I'm just ready to go lie down and go to bed.
Right.
So I'd say that, I've been really fortunate. I never felt like I was really in danger. And, there was one time I was in this town in the south of France and it was winter, and had gone for a walk, and I kind of just started walking, and an hour or two had gone by and it was getting dark, and I realized I didn't know where I was. I thought I'd just gone in one direction, but I started coming back and I didn't recognize anything. And these two little ladies stopped me, and I call them the little French grandmas. They stopped me, and they're speaking in French, of course, and they're asking me where I'm going. And I'm explaining to them that I don't know where I'm going. And I tell them where I'm going. I'm going to Antibes. and they're looking at me like lost my mind. And like, got it through to my head that I was not going the right way, and I did not need to be out here alone after dark, young lady. And you need to get in the car right now, and we're taking you on Steve. And it was the funniest thing because I don't really understand anything they said, but I could totally read their entire body language, and it was very much, young lady, what are you doing out here by yourself?
They scolded you.
They totally did.
Which is awesome.
It wasn't even late at night either. It was maybe like 8 o'clock. I mean, but they did not approve.
They did not approve. I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, that's fabulous. So have you ever had any misunderstandings when you run into this issue of lack of language or?
I mean, yes, but nothing that's really coming to mind. I mean, I couldn't just sort of get out that easily.
Okay. It sounds like there could be some interesting stories behind it. Maybe if we weren't drinking coffee while we were doing this, and instead we were drinking some wine, that could lead to a whole different set of stories. So tell me a little bit, as whether you're looking at those way back travels or more recent travels, how do you talk about your growth when it comes to solo travel? What are you learning? Why is it so important to you?
That's a great question. I just think that every place you go, these experiences you have, they build in layers, and they shape you, and they help you become, the person that you become.
Absolutely. It does. Is there any like notable specific instance where you're just like that interaction or that situation, that was a game changer for me?
That entire first trip to Europe was a huge game changer. That is like, I learned so much on that trip. I mean, I was gone for 5 months, and it was a long time, and I was ready to come home when I came home, but I had learned so much. It was so much self-reliance. I had never been on my own that long. I never experienced anything like that, and I really did what I wanted to do and took myself where I wanted to go. And like, okay, so I'm going to Paris, and what are we going to do in Paris? Like, well, I had my things I want to do in Paris, but it was just amazing. It was amazing, and and the people you meet along the way. Because I was in Rome, and I did fall in with a group of backpackers from Canada and the U.S. and this young girl from Turkey who was really living in Australia. And she and I ended up going to Venice together.
Wow. Okay. So have you been able to stay connected with people that you've traveled, alongside? I'm not going to necessarily say traveled with, but you certainly traveled alongside.
No, I haven't stayed connected with any of them. And, most likely, well, that's not true. In Ecuador, yes, because of the internet, right? We have the internet now.
Yes.
And in fact, I just got a client yesterday for a woman I met in Ecuador. she and I reconnected via Facebook, and she called me up out of the blue with a project yesterday. So that was just funny. But yeah, and so the people that I met and traveled with in Ecuador or alongside Ecuador, yes, I definitely stay in contact with them. But the people from back in those earlier travels, Facebook didn't exist, the email didn't exist. I've talked to a couple of them. I've talked to one person, I think, once since then.
Okay, so, and that's not unusual. Again, it's been a game changer, as the internet and social media and things like that. It allows for us to have connections all over the world. In fact, a guest that I interviewed earlier was saying that she often reaches out to her first level connections to see if anyone has another level or chain of connection in the part of the world where she is going to be traveling. And she says she generally is finding people just 1 degree of separation in any part of the world, which is awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's so easy now. And I look at my, just my Facebook, don't even look at anything else, just Facebook. I mean, I have so many connections all over the world now.
It is pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is that you're getting business from it. So that's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always good.
Okay. So what was the hardest part, aside from language? And, again, you're going through this a long diary of solo travels, but what's been the hardest part for you?
In traveling?
In solo travel.
in
Yep.
solo travel. Not doing as much of it as I can. not doing more of it.
That I like. That I like. Too funny. So if somebody's coming to you and they said, okay, I know you can do it. It made sense for you because you're special, different, wonderful, whatever that is, but I can't ever see myself doing it. What would you say to them?
Well, I say, well, certainly everyone's different, but you might want to start small. Go to the movies by yourself. Go to the museum by yourself. Go walk around town by yourself. The world's not going to end because you don't have someone to talk to right by your side.
Well, and just because you didn't bring a friend with you when you're doing something doesn't mean you can't make friends along the way.
Hmm. And I think it's actually easier because you don't have that other person to be buffering you from other people. You're much more
Absolutely.
approachable on your own.
Absolutely. And all the instances that I hear about this continue to echo that sentiment that when you travel with someone, you're more likely to be engrossed in that person and what they want and their
Hmm.
interests and things like that. Where when you're alone, you are more open to those conversations and possibilities.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, and you've talked for a moment about Ecuador, but I don't know that you shared the whole story about Ecuador. Can you bring us up to speed on that? I have a couple friends who are actually taking trips to Ecuador coming up in the next year. And so any insights or
Oh, well, Ecuador, as you probably know, is a major hotspot right now for expats. Um, people are retiring to Ecuador, they're moving to Ecuador for lengthy periods of time. Ecuador is a great country. I actually went there because a colleague was running a business retreat, and that was my instigation for going because I'd been wanting to go to South America for a long time, and I'd been wanting to go to Ecuador. And when I found out he was doing this, I was like, oh, a business expense to go to Ecuador? I'm in. So I went there for, my boyfriend laughs. He's like, yeah, she went for a 3.5 day retreat for, 3 weeks. So, well, it's a long trip.
absolutely,
So I was
absolutely.
in Quito. He held his retreat in Quito. And then I went to Cuenca, which is about an hour and a half flight. Cuenca is this beautiful town in the south of Ecuador, and it's very, very popular with Americans right now. And I went there I was writing an article for a magazine about an apartment there, like a travel, what do you call it, vacation rental. And so I took a flight to Cuenca and stayed there 3 or 4 days. Beautiful, beautiful area.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So where's next for you?
I don't know. I don't know. We're contemplating a big move, like an actual move. So that's sort of pushing the travel to the back burner right now.
Understood. Understood. Are you staying in this country or are you just going to pack it up and go?
Probably for now, but we will see. We will see. I want to go house sitting.
Right? I think we just need to do so much more of that.
I know.
That's exciting. Well, wonderful. Well, any other closing thoughts that you have, thoughts of inspiration or how you would really tell those ladies who are out there on the fence about solo travel? What would you say to them?
I'd say go do it. Do it. You'll
Just
never get this experience again. It's the most amazing experience.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, you mentioned that you were able to find a little bit of business through some of these past travel connections, which is great. Would you mind sharing with my audience a little bit about what you do, what you have coming up, and how they could connect with you?
Sure, of course. So I'm a copywriter, which is a marketing writer, for those of you who don't know. I primarily write web copy and that kind of a thing. And I can be found online in the wilds of the internet at my name, jenphillipsapril.com. And of course, in the usual places like Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there.
Great. And we'll put those links in the show notes. But do you have anything coming up that my listeners might be interested in checking out?
Well, I am doing, well, this is tomorrow, so this will be a little too soon, but I will be doing it again in the coming months, like a content creation lab. So for anyone who's looking for like a structured environment to create content, whether that be blogging or social media, that is something that I'm doing this year. And the first one happens tomorrow.
Well, good. Well, good luck with tomorrow's event. And yes, it'll be great if people can find you if they're interested in learning more about that and be able to reach out to you directly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much.
Jen, it's been a pleasure hearing from you today. I'm thrilled that you were able to spend some time with us, and I wish you luck in the upcoming move.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great thing here.
Good. On that note, we're going to sign out, and I look forward to connecting with you again in the future. Wasn't it great to hear the stories that Jen shared with us today? It's important to remember that you don't always have to speak the language to communicate with people. Well, sisters, we've reached the end of today's episode, but the conversation doesn't have to end there. Go to www.transformviatravel.com to join the Go Solo Sisterhood Facebook community and share your thoughts. If you like what you've heard, please invite your friends to listen to Go Solo Live. If you want to be a guest, reach out to me directly at Jennifer@transformviatravel.com. Until next time, remember, go solo, not alone.